on Alaska's wildlife refuges. I'd like to take a few more moments to talk about the animals that are subject to this rule. Grizzly bears and wolves are the top predators in North America. And with predators in any ecosystem, they play a critical role in maintaining prey populations and in preventing problems like we've actually seen in New Jersey, like the overgrazing and disease that can occur when deer, moose, and caribou grow in high numbers. These charismatic animals also attract huge numbers of tourists to national parks, refuges, and other wildlands in the United States. All across the country, nearly 72 million Americans spend over $50 billion on wildlife watching. And in Alaska, wildlife watchers outnumber hunters by nearly 5 to 1. And they also contribute more than 4 times as much money to the state's economy as hunting does. Put another way, even considering the issue from an economic perspective, these animals are worth far more alive than they are dead, killed by these savage, inhumane practices. There are few values as deeply entrenched in the American culture as conservation. This legacy is our American heritage, and the coexistence of people, wildlife, and wild lands remains a key objective for our public lands today. Americans interact with nature in many different ways on public lands, some through consumption of uses like hunting and fishing, others through more hands-off activities like camping and wildlife watching. No single use is more important or more valuable than another. And so public lands should be managed in a way that minimizes conflict across those different uses while allowing for natural diversity. The Fish and Wildlife Service rule does just that. Our wildlife refuges are not game parks, and they should not be managed as though they are. The cruel practice that this rule prohibits, killing mother animals and their babies, and trapping, snaring, and baiting, and aerial hunting of bears are practices that I believe do not align with who we are as a country. They are practices that have no place on our national wildlife refuges in Alaska or any other state. I want to close with something that my friend Senator Heinrich already mentioned. Teddy Roosevelt was an avid hunter, a naturalist, a wildlife enthusiast. When he was president, Roosevelt went on a bear hunting trip in Mississippi. Roosevelt's hunting party cornered a Louisiana black bear. They tied it to a willow tree and suggested that the president shoot it. Viewing this as an extremely unsportsmanlike way to kill a bear, Roosevelt refused to do it. A political cartoonist heard the story and drew a cartoon that celebrated President Roosevelt's decision. A Brooklyn candy shop owner saw the cartoon and decided to create a stuffed toy bear and dedicate it to the president, who refused to engage in this kind of inhumane hunting of a bear. He called it a teddy bear, or Teddy's bear. And little children, for generations, have been loving them ever since. Teddy Roosevelt knew that using certain methods to kill animals was immoral and wrong. We know this too. Why, with all of the issues going on right now, from health care to tax, all of the issues and urgencies, infrastructure, why are we about to consider a CRA that would literally, on our federal lands, allow the cruelest type of killing to go on of bears and wolves, their pups, in dens? Why, with all going on, that we as Americans would violate our culture and history by allowing the most inhumane, cruel killing practices to go on? Why, with all that we have to do, are we going to allow this to happen? Well, I will not support it, and I stand against it. Our national wildlife refuges are refuges for wildlife, have never allowed these cruel practices. And we should not start now. We should not CRA this rule. I stand strong and firm in honor of our traditions to stand against this CRA. Thank you, and I yield the floor.